It has been far too long since I've read this trilogy, so let's complete it together. Hi besties, welcome back to my channel where we turn every page into a journey. It has been far too long since I have read this trilogy. I read the first two books about 2 years ago. Literally, that's how long it's been. I am very excited to read the third one. I actually found the third book at my local library. In the front of the library, they have a section for free books, all the way from children's books to adult books. And this happened, what the fuck? That was a bug that almost flew in my mouth. When I was skimming the aisles, I was like, no way they have this book right now. And I knew this was the third book in the trilogy that I wanted to complete because I was obsessed with the first two. So, of course, I took it home with me. Unfortunately, it did not come with a dust jacket, but that's okay. I would have loved for it to, you know, be matching and lined up with the first two, but it's not the end of the world. I definitely do need a refresher because I have forgotten low-key what the first two books were about. But in the first one of us is lying. There are 5 students that go to detention after school one day, and during detention, one of the students ends up dying. The student that ended up dying, his name is Simon, and he was known for a very notorious gossip app that he created for his school. Now, Mr. Simon, he definitely had tea on the other 4 students that were in detention with him, and he wanted to, you know, spread the tea and let people know what the gossip was about. But he ended up dying, so you find out what the tea was for all the other students and the gossip that had to do with that. Moving on to the second book, One of Us is Next. Of course, after Simon dies and you figure out all the tea from the first book, there's a lot of copycat apps like the gossip app that Simon created. And of course, there's a lot of posers that want to do the same thing that Simon did until someone created the game of Truth or Dare. The people that were experiencing all the drama that had to do with the Truth or Dare game are being affected in real life. So you follow along the story of that. Then moving right along to the last book, One of Us is Back. From what I've read so far and from the synopsis, this is about the same 4 original characters in the first book. They are reintroduced into this one, and someone is trying to get a vengeance against these 4 students from the original crew. That is all that I know so far from the third book. I'm not going to hold you guys too much longer because I do want to get started on this third book because I am extremely excited. So let's start reading. Child, I am so tired. Can you tell? Like, the bags under my eyes look insane. I have a little bit of a reading update, nothing too crazy. Yesterday, I read up to page 55. That's between chapter 5 and 6. And I'm glad that in this book, the author has given the readers a refresher about what happened in book 1 and 2. She really shrunk down the huge synopsis of everything that happened into a page or 2. I'm glad the author did that because it's starting to jog my memory and it's helping me remember what happened in the first 2 books. As far as the characters, I forgot how many characters were involved in this whole trilogy. Thankfully, in the first few pages of this book, there's a page that has all the characters that are involved in this book on it, and it gives a description about who they are and what relations they have to one another. And I've been using and referencing that a lot so far in this book, even though I just started, so that's been extremely helpful. The reason that I did not read too much is because I was watching the championship of the Women's College World Series last night, which was honestly a whole disgrace. I was really upset that it ended the way that it did, but congratulations to Texas. I'm glad you guys won. But while I was watching the game in between innings and during commercials, I was reading a little bit, so that's why I got some progress, but nothing too crazy. And I realized I have not told you guys what's happened so far in this book. So you're still following along the main characters from book 1 in the original Bayview crew. That includes Andy, Bronwyn. I think that's how you say her name. Knox, Maeve, and Phoebe. They are going around town living their life. You know, things have happened. I can't explain it because it'll ruin the plot for the first book. But some things are going on that is causing controversy within their friend group and within the town of Bayview. So they just have to deal with the adversity that's going on. However, as they're living their daily lives, they are starting to notice these billboards around town, specifically this one billboard that's around town that says, okay, I found it. So on the billboard, there's a message that says, "Time for a new game, Bayview." No one knows whether it's an advertising tactic from a company or if it's another copycat imposter of Simon. And a few people within the crew have seen this billboard so far, but they're not thinking anything of it because they genuinely think it's just an advertising tactic from a company in their town. Then, later on, there's a second part to this cryptic message on the billboard, and it says, "There's only one rule." I have a feeling the crew's eventually going to realize that this is just another part of a sick, twisted game that whoever is the headmaster of is really playing on them. So I'm gonna see what happens in the rest of this book. For today's plans, I don't know what I'm doing with my family yet. We do have to go to breakfast in probably within the hour, so we're gonna be doing that soon. I'll see you guys later. Do you guys notice anything different on me? As I told you guys before, my man and I were going to IHOP, so we had just gotten back, and I noticed there was a package at our front door. I was like, "Did you order anything?" Because I did not. Before I could even film an unboxing for my YouTube, I already opened the package because I was so excited to see what it was. And it is a microphone from my Amazon wish list. It actually comes with two microphones. I'm wearing one and the other one is here, along with the port that you plug into the phone. But I'm so excited to have this microphone. I have one that was from Five Below, but God knows that that quality is awful. I sounded like an actual robot and it was just not the vibe. So now that I have a new microphone, I'm so excited to use it. I can use it for my voiceovers, for my content, and just simply holding it in front of me for my videos and TikToks. So Andrew, thank you so much for buying this for me. I really appreciate you. If you guys want to check out my Amazon wish list, it is always linked in the description below. Long time no see. I do have a reading update. I made it up to about 50% in One of Us is Back. I made it just up to chapter 16 last night, and I definitely have some thoughts. When I tell you Miss Karen McManus is not playing about this slow burn turning into an angsty, anxious, and eerie book, I'm not exaggerating. This book has me on the edge of my seat. The pacing so far is pretty solid. I don't have any complaints about that. There is starting to become some chaos, and you can tell that something major is about to happen. I also love how we're getting some subtle moments where the author is giving us some Easter eggs, but she's not giving away too much information, but just enough to where you can connect the dots. I can't even lie, I've caught myself saying a few times, what did I just read? Is that really what I thought it said? That's how crazy this book is so far, and there's just so much drama going on, and I'm not even halfway through with it yet. As I said previously, there are a few of the OG characters that have come back in the third book, And I'm really loving the dynamic of their friendship, but you can tell that there's a lot of trust issues going on, and someone in the friend group is not being entirely honest. And I have a little itch, a little scratch in my butt that something is definitely not right and someone's hiding something very major. And to be honest, not really sure who the suspect in this book is. I feel like there could be plenty of people. It could be someone within the friend group that is a suspect, or a new character that is being evolved in this book. But I am suspicious of a lot of people. I'm really trying and not trying to connect the dots. When I read a book, I try to go in kind of open minded, and I don't like to really jump to conclusions, because if the conclusion is not what I wanted or expected, then I'm kind of not upset, but I'm like, why did it have to end that way? Why couldn't it end the way that I thought I wanted it to end? So I kind of go in absent minded in a way. So when the big plot twists do come, my jaw is on the floor. All in all, I'm very invested right now. There's no way I'm turning back, and I'm going to continue reading today because I need to know what happens next. I can't be the only one that gets a little frustrated when you come to Target in the book section specifically, and you're looking at all the books, but there's little to no diversity. Like, you barely see BIPOC authors in Target, which is pretty disheartening. I do have one thing to say before I go to bed. I know this is a jump scare. Mind your business. This is how I look before I go to bed. But, anyways, I do have a gripe to pick with this kind of trope. It specifically is always with mystery and thriller books. The police presence and the police officers in the police department as a whole never do shit in books like these. In this book, and I think in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I think that's the name of the series, the police presence in that book was ass too. And the reason I have such an issue with this is because, hold on, I'm out of breath. The reason I have such an issue with this is because these are young adults in this book. They should not have to solve mysteries and murders on their own and have to come up with evidence and string things together on their own, when the whole police department should be doing that themselves, because that is literally their job. Another issue I have with the police department, the police and the detectives, they always sweep minor issues that people in the characters bring to them. For instance, like a missing person, as an example, they always say, oh, they haven't been missing for 24 hours, so maybe they just went to a friend's house and haven't updated you about their location. Or maybe, they're just someone who is known for running away and not letting people know where they are. But the people that have come to them and let them know that this is not this person's normal behavior and that's not what they normally do, so you guys need to look into this. But the police are like, oh, we'll just wait till they return. What do you mean? Like, by the time 48 hours comes around, this person could be unalived somewhere in a ditch, and then the police are like, oh, we should have looked into this sooner. Like, no shit. That's just food for thought. I had to get that off my chest because I've been harboring that in for a couple hours as I continue reading my book. I'm on page 241, and I would guess that's about, I don't know, 75% in. So I'm going to keep reading tonight. I hope I get a good dent into this book because I 100% want to finish this tomorrow, because I cannot wait to see what happens at the end and to see who is behind all of this shenanigans in this book. Okay, y'all, I have officially finished One of Us Is Back by Karen McManus, and let me tell you, this was an absolute ride. From page 1 all the way to the very end, I kid you not, I could not stop flipping through these pages. Obviously, the tension was very high and the twists were nonstop. There were moments where I genuinely gasped, dropping just enough clues to make you think you figured it out, and then hitting you with something you didn't see coming. Character-wise, I loved how things came full circle. Some of the arcs had me emotional. especially thinking about everything these characters have been through across all 3 books. I also appreciate how justice and truth, in their own twisted way, played a role in the resolution. This book ties the trilogy together in a very fascinating way, and once you get to the end, I feel like you're going to think that the end is very satisfying and everything gets tied up into a pretty little bow, even though it's been very dramatic and very messy from the beginning. I'm going to give One of Us Is Back a solid 4.5 stars. And for the trilogy overall, I'd probably rate it about a 4 to a 4.5. It was an amazing YA mystery. If you love those type of genres, you're definitely going to want to read this one. So now I want to know if you've read this trilogy by Karen McManus. Let me know down in the comments. Please no spoilers for those that have not read it. But I do want to have a little discussion because this book needs to be talked about more. If you enjoyed my vlog, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you get notified every time I post bookish content. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.